Either that or he's a real good doppelganger. Isn't that Keanu Reeves? Bruh.
Very early on in his career, Keanu Reeves told reporters that his name, Keanu, meant
cool breeze over the mountains.
it is a kind of perfect summation of who he is as a star, not just on screen, but in terms of what we know about him as a person.
You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking.
I have been a part of some films that have been embraced, and I'm very grateful.
As an actor, you're essentially living behind the bars.
Right. Comedy and tragedy.
He didn't even really meet him properly until he was about 13. Must have played a kind of significant role to him in influencing and shaping that desire. He was also advised to change his name because Keanu sounded too ethnic, which he briefly considered but ultimately decided wasn't quite right, and I think is a great decision because now his name has become almost synonymous. You say Keanu, everyone knows who you're talking about.
He's in a kind of stoner drama called River's Edge about teenagers involved in a murder.
It's this really underrated cult movie.
River's Edge was a curious project because in the time of 80s lighthearted teen fiction, it stood out as one of the grungier, darker pieces. It offered Keanu a chance to approach a more serious role. Whilst the actor was still up and coming, it served as an opportunity to carry a role with heavy thematic undertones.
The film shows the kind of malaise of this community and how the teenagers have to come to terms with this incredibly harrowing situation. And Keanu was praised quite roundly for his performance as Matt, who's one of the, I would say, darker characters within it. He kind of struggles a lot with the situation.
You think, Don John?
I'm your brother.
Where do my children go at night?
His performance was regarded as a real breakout by people like the New York Times. Everyone was kind of amazed that this presence had kind of come out of nowhere. I think he was really able quite early on to establish himself as quite a distinctive figure in acting who was someone definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Permanent Record, a more underrated feature, had Keanu play as Chris Townsend.
Buddy, I don't know if I did the right thing.
After the passing of his closest friend, Keanu's upbeat character changes drastically. The film depicts grief in a very unique way, having sharing the experience between a range of characters of which Keanu seemingly has to manage.
He also, in the late 80s, has a co-starring role in Dangerous Liaisons, a costume drama in which one might say he's just a little bit miscast. So he makes his really big breakthrough in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, a really distinctive film and one that seems perfectly suited to him. It's really what made him a star more than any other film he'd done to that point. So Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a film about two high school students who have to create a history paper, and somehow they manage to travel through time to meet some of the characters they need to write about in their paper. It's just a wonderful, wide-eyed adventure story.
Let's go back into history.
I think that this was due to it being this really big, silly, fun movie which took something that people already kind of were seeing a lot of in this time travel adventure movie genre that had developed with something like Back to the Future. It combined it with this kind of new era, shall we say, of kind of stoner comedies which were very silly and just presented themselves as not taking film too seriously.
What makes it really memorable and remarkable is that it's a film about teenage male friendship that is utterly without aggression or malice. They're just good friends. They get along really well. They help each other. Excellent! And they do have an excellent adventure. So it's a really sweet film, maybe even slightly educational film, given that you get to meet Socrates and Abraham Lincoln. A film that established him in his wide-eyed capacity. His big phrase in the film is there's a sense in which everything is new and exciting and appealing to this rather sweet, not entirely bright teenage boy.
The film was really well received by critics and made a surprising return on the box office investment and has become known now as one of the kind of best sci-fi movies around because it just takes the genre, which sometimes I think can feel quite serious, and plays with it and has fun with it. It's really known as a defining presence within Keanu's filmography.
There's an element of nostalgia to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Like you can't, I imagine if you watch as a teenager, you simply identify with Bill and Ted. But if you watch it as an adult, you kind of look back to teenage years and the kinds of adventures and the kinds of friendships that you had at that time in your life. So I think It's a perfect film for nostalgia. It's a perfect series to stay in the hearts of audiences because of that nostalgia factor and that idea that one would always like to look back on those sorts of friendships and that period in your life for the kind of excitement that it has in the film.
The phenomenon that was Bill and Ted made Keanu Reeves a household name. Keanu makes an effort to form relationships with his co-starring actors and set professionals. His friendship with River Phoenix stood out in I Love You to Death.
What do you say?
The black comedy propelled both Keanu and River to the next stages of their blossoming careers.
Whoops.
I have a feeling we're about to embark upon a most unprecedented expedition.
Bill and Ted returned once again for the sequel. There's a lot of deliberation as to which film people prefer. The battle with death remains an iconic scene in anyone's eyes. To many, it was a clever spin on Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal, with less chess and more Bill and Ted antics.
Bill and Ted are dead.
Keanu, having developed a passion for composing music, decided to start a band.
Dogstar.
Dogstar consisted of drummer Robert Mailhouse, who Keanu met at Gleason's Supermarket. Brett Dormouse was on guitar, and Keanu Reeves on bass and shared vocals.
It's Brett Dormouse, happy to be here.
Keanu, rock stars become music stars, movie stars all the time. How does it feel to be a movie star who's becoming a rock star who has a passion for music?
Well, I have a passion for music. I don't think myself or the band Dogstar have quite reached the heights of rock stardom, but it's been really fun playing in the band over the past 6 years, and hopefully we can continue to make records and play live and stuff, you know?
Does Dogstar afford you peace and security?
Does rock afford me peace and security? Absolutely not. No, but it's really fun, man. It's really fun to write, and the fraternity with my band members and like traveling and when we can and doing rock shows is a lot of fun.
Keanu and River Phoenix returned in a feature the following year, breaking out of the teen fiction rut and taking on a serious narrative.
Always know where I am by the way the road looks. Look, I just know that I've been here before. I just know that I've been stuck here.
So My Own Private Idaho was Gus Van Sant's take on Shakespeare's Henriade, which is a series of historical plays.
Isn't that right, Mike?
What do you care about money? You got plenty of money.
Actually, Mike is right. I am going to inherit money. A lot of money.
It took quite loose inspiration following these two young street hustlers played by River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves, who go on this journey across the United States and to Italy in search of Mike's mother. It's not only considered one of Gus Van Sant's best films, but it's become a very pivotal queer film.
So My Own Private Idaho was as far from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as you could get.
And it's definitely one of the most heartbreaking films of the kind of 90s, and definitely for Keanu, I think, establishes him as this sort of unknowable screen presence.
Obscure, enigmatic film, quite difficult to know what's going on all the time. It has its surreal moments. And I think it was Keanu Reeves' signal to the audience that he was not going to be pigeonholed and he wasn't going to be caught in that kind of role. It was an art house film and it was an art house hit.
My Own Private Idaho is a unique, introspective film. Keanu and River's performances were exceptional. The two men shared a rare bond during its production, a bond which bled into their performances and solidified imaginable. Returning to the comedy genre with Much Ado About Nothing, Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, and Freaked, an experimental picture co-directed by his good friend, Alex Winter, in which Alex also starred.
Did the language ever, intimidate?
You mean English? No.
Most of the play is in verse. I'm sorry, in prose. So it's a welcome challenge.
The strange casting decisions continued. Little Buddha stood out as a rogue addition for Keanu, who plays as the reincarnation of Siddhartha Gautama.
I played Prince Siddhartha, an emotional fable, myth aspect, interpretation. Buddhism is very specific with the psychological, emotional declension, I guess. So I guess studying that comes to emancipation from the from emotions and realizing more of what phenomenal existence is. And through that practice comes perhaps compassion and wisdom.
In the 1980s and into the 1990s, action stars tended to be figures like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. That is really powerful, really macho, seemingly none too bright men of power and action.
Keanu Reeves helped to bring in this new age of action stars where you didn't have to be the biggest, the most ripped person on the planet to be a credible lead.
Keanu Reeves really signals a change with Speed, particularly in terms of turning him into a kind of action hero, but I think it's also a point at which he redefines the action hero.
When I find you. Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus. Once the bus goes 50 miles an hour, the bomb is armed. If it drops below 50, it blows up.
Sandra Bullock is behind the wheel of the bus. Keanu Reeves is trying to save the bus. It's this crazy action thriller, as fast-paced and exciting as they come, in which he plays a kind of heroic action man. You can't think of anything more different from Bram Stoker's Dracula or My Own Private Idaho. It's a really different kind of role for him, and he absolutely owns it. He becomes this man of steel, this man of action, and it really redefines his career.
Yeah, the title Speed, and then the situations that the character got into. I mean, it was an opportunity to play, I thought, a good man and to have fun. You know, I was looking for work, it came around, and got the opportunity to play in it, and I'm so lucky to be able to participate in such a fantasy and to hopefully entertain.
You know, I think it's just nobody expected anything, and they got a lot more than they didn't expect. It's just, hype. I don't play into it. You have a good time. You hope something does well, and when it does, you're very happy. And I hope it does well for Keanu and Jan and Dennis, and
He turns it into something that's more intelligent, with a bit of emotional depth. So he redefines the action hero and makes him just a little bit more vulnerable, even though he has that sort of power and energy that all action heroes have.
No, the nature of acting in an action picture is very much in a sense of play. You really
actually put yourself at any risk?
Even the dramatics part of it, it's really in of itself. It's a good part of it.
Keanu proved himself as a formidable action star in Speed. He followed suit with Johnny Mnemonic in 1995. To many, this sci-fi thriller was thought as the foundation for the next steps in Keanu's journey. The inclusion of cyberpunk elements drove people to believe that this was a world in which the actor seemed comfortable in, though awards would have one believe that Keanu remained a blank slate.
Cameraman Jolly, and just get in there and get you a shot of Keanu Reeves. We're being promised we're next in the line, but these things...
I think the first film that comes to mind with Keanu Reeves is The Matrix. There are other roles that come to mind, but The Matrix is such a distinctive role. It's such a distinctive film. It's so iconic.
I was 11 when I first saw it, and I remember thinking that Keanu Reeves was probably the coolest person I'd ever seen. The film itself has such an incredible legacy and has really changed the way we think about sci-fi movies and has become kind of part of the public lexicon now. So that's the one for me that I think will always stand out.
Keanu, Sky News, we're live. Can I just ask you one very quick question, please? What do you make of the reception, not just here in London, but just The Matrix worldwide?
It's pretty extraordinary, you know, and it's great to be a part of. It doesn't happen all that often. It's just, for me, I love the films, and I had a great experience making them, and so hopefully people will enjoy them. And the experience of making the film was a great one, and then the aspect when it came around to complete the trilogy, just signed on board without reading the scripts because of just the experience that I had and the trust I have in the directors. And had a great experience making Reloaded and Revolutions, and it's great that people are coming out to the films, and I hope that they enjoy them.
Famously, Will Smith says that one of his biggest regrets is turning down The Matrix, which he turned down in favour of Wild Wild West because he had a lot of doubts about whether or not the Wachowskis would be able to pull off the very tricky special effects. Nicolas Cage similarly turned down the film, as well as Brad Pitt and Val Kilmer. So it was quite a long list of names before Keanu Reeves was the one that the script came to. And Warner Brothers really fought quite hard for Keanu, whereas the Wachowskis were more interested in having Johnny Depp. Keanu ended up being a perfect choice because he was a little bit of a blank slate who didn't have a huge profile at the time. He really gave this
AI, artificial intelligence, again, at a time when not a lot of people would have even known what that was.
I'm glad to be here. You know, I'm glad to speak about something that I love so much. I'm a fan of these movies, and I had a great time making them. They've been a huge part of my life. And so to come out and travel and speak about them is part of the gift, I guess. I'm fine with it.
You've done lots of really interesting work, haven't you? You know.
Yeah, I've been trying.
Yeah.
You know, I really feel like The Matrix is the event, is the piece that we all, actors and craftspeople, are a part of, you know? So hopefully if anything's remembered, it will be the films themselves, you know? And we're part of that.
So it is an incredibly innovative and I think in a way prophetic film. It just broke a lot of new ground and opened up new cinematic worlds for audiences. The Matrix is an iconic film partly because of its visual style, that it imagined the cyber world cinematically at a time when few, if any, films had done that. It's interesting to look at it now and realize just how paranoid it is and how steeped in conspiracy it is, that everything we see and do is artificial and invented by larger structures around us that are all out to get us, that are all out to farm us, literally.
It's pretty special.
Keanu, you've been a bit of a rocker in the past. I mean, how rock?
Not like these guys.
How rock and roll are you now? Are you still rocking it up?
No, I'm not. I'm going a quieter path now. More measured and quiet.
The fame which came to Keanu thanks to the Matrix franchise was immense. Beyond the glitz and glamour, Keanu's partner, Jennifer, gave birth to their daughter, Ava. Sadly, the baby was stillborn. The birth affected Keanu and Jennifer beyond comprehension. The couple briefly parted ways, before reuniting once more in 2001 after dealing with the loss in their own way. One's personal life can put a great deal of strain on their career. Whilst fans of Keanu could only speculate, it was something that many felt sympathy for. To juggle publicity and privacy is a war Keanu seemed to avoid fighting. His emotions were raw and could be seen in his interactions alongside his performances. An aura of honesty and humbleness began to radiate from Keanu, something many celebrities could not demonstrate due to being enveloped by fame. But Keanu was a completely different entity. The Gift, directed by Sam Raimi, took Keanu back to a darker character.
That is incredibly genuine coming from Keanu. He seems like someone who just really wants to leave the world a better place than he found it. One of the stories that always gets repeated is how much he loves stunt teams because he makes so many action movies, and he always buys really incredible gifts as a thank you to all these people he works with. He bought Ducati motorcycles for everyone on The Matrix and then Rolexes for everyone on John Wick because he just wants to kind of share his success with the world. There's a really lovely clip from a few years ago where he was stranded at an airport with a group of passengers and was giving them a sort of impromptu tour with some facts he found on Wikipedia.
Its population is around 380,000, making it the 9th most populous city in California and the 52nd most populous city in the nation.
We all say it, we all do it, and I think it has meaning. I think it's what we're going through now. I think it's the reason that things are all sort of a little bit uncomfortable.
He is known for being a very genuine soul, the opposite of a diva within Hollywood.
I think it's maybe too easy to say that Keanu Reeves makes action films and sci-fi films alone. It's true, those are the films that have the most impact, those are the most popular films he makes. But he also makes a pretty wide variety of films. He tries his hands in quite a wide of just really kind acts of everyday behavior that reinforce the idea that this guy is not a slave to Hollywood glamour, but is his own person.
In the 2000s, Keanu really started to kind of experiment more. He was doing the Matrix sequels, but he was also taking on roles like John Constantine in the adaptation of the comic books about a man dying of cancer who hunts down all kinds of supernatural entities. And that's become one of the roles that I think a lot of people still, even now, nearly 20 years later, still want him to make a sequel to that film. He was also taking on roles in films like Something's Gotta Give and Thumbsucker, which were a little bit more comedic for him. And then he did A Scanner Darkly, which was Richard Linklater's very experimental rotoscope animation film. So I think that Keanu really started to kind of take more risks once he'd had the success of The Matrix, and to start getting involved with films that were a little bit different for him.
You know, I mean, I'm trying to play different kinds of roles, different genres, and not be typecast. So, you know, I don't think you're going to see The Private Lives of Pippa Lee and expect to see Neo or something like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the physical part of acting, and this one certainly has that going for it. So, yeah, it was a good experience.
Keanu made his directing debut with Man of Tai Chi in 2013. He really played into kind of his interest in action and in martial arts particularly.
But there's a sense in which he hasn't quite found his feet or found his new role until he makes the first John Wick film.
The loss of a loved one was depicted beautifully by Keanu in 2014, upon the release of John Wick. Beyond being an impeccably well-choreographed franchise of action filmmaking, John Wick connoted an understanding of impermanence, that suffering is merely an unavoidable part of life.
You like that, huh?
It is at this point where we bear witness to this actor showing discipline which goes far beyond physical feats. Keanu himself and John Wick shared something in common: loss, as do they share the willingness to persevere.
How good's your laundry?
No one's that good.
I thought not.
That starts a whole new franchise for him and gives him a new identity as a more mature actor. He's not the young teenage Keanu Reeves anymore. He plays an action hero who cannot be defeated. No matter what you throw at him, he cannot be defeated.
John Wick has become one of the most successful action franchises of all time, and I think that it totally wouldn't work without Keanu. And I think that a lot of that is down to the partnership between Keanu Reeves and Chad Stahelski.
And you must be very good at Kung Fu now as well.
I'm okay at movie kung fu.
Okay.
Yeah, movie action.
New characters,
New storyline.
Of course, new set pieces, new action.
Oh, what's staying the same? John
Wick.
Suffering. Fighting for freedom.
Always.
Together they really care about making sure that the John Wick films are not only incredibly well crafted, but incredibly entertaining. Definitely the amount of effort Keanu and Stahelski have put into casting the films and building the world of the films. The franchise is incredibly beloved by action fans around the world.
But wait, we do some car stuff.
Horses,
cars are back.
Fights.
Not really horses.
A little bit of horses.
But we have cars.
A lot of cars.
A
Motorcycle.
lot of fighting,
Motorcycle
jiu-jitsu, judo, gun fu.
Judo, gun fu.
Oh, we got some surprises
Swords.
in there.
Yep.
Got some surprises, yeah.
They both require this incredible amount of stunt work from Keanu, who has really shown this ability to throw himself into his work, especially in the latest John Wick film, where he falls down the longest flight of stairs in the world repeatedly and quite heavily. He's someone who really wants to innovate within his space and try new things. There's a constant quality.
So it's a curious combination of the old style vigilante film in which the action hero is seeking justice, but it's overlaid with a level of heartache and vulnerability that gives the film and the character some depth.
Well, I love the role, and for me it was really cool to have the response of the first film from the audience to give us the opportunity to tell another chapter in John's life. I remember the first day that I was back we were starting to film, and the first time that I put the suit back on, it was literally the same suit from chapter 2, and it still fit.
I was always inspired by the early James Bond movies, about how they took you places and they made you really think about the world and places you want to go and inspire you. So we just wanted to do the same thing. It's a bit of a saga. It's John Wick's story. It's John Wick's saga. So you get to see John Wick go through a lot of trials and tribulations, some great set pieces, and meet some interesting people.
Yeah, the world, the character. I mean, you were going a little big.
Went pretty big on this one.
Yeah.
We wanted the world of John Wick to feel big.
Is it true that there's really going to be a Bill and Ted 3? Is it really true? Like, that's my dream come true if so. I can't wait to see it, man. Huge fan.
We didn't expect to want to make another one. Including, not just Keanu and myself, including the writers Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon. And I think they just kind of got inspired. They had this idea they brought to us a while ago, like a good 10 years ago, that we just thought was really hilarious and had a lot of potential.
Third installment, is it on the cards? Is it happening?
Maybe. Yeah, they're writing a script, Chris and Ed, so we'll see if it's any good.
You're not giving much away though. You just...
Well, that's all I know. I mean, it's just like they've got the burden and, why hasn't things happened and they're still kind of stuck in their life.
Yeah. I think it would be good. I think it would be better than good. I think it would be...
It would be ridiculous, but fun.
But fun.
If it's good.
It would be excellent. You're not going to say it, are you?
Not today.
Not today. Oh, I tried.
Some projects were deemed more critically successful than others, yet Keanu maintained his passion throughout every project he was a part of.
Yeah, I was reliving it at the same time, living it anew.
Very self-deprecating and doesn't have any of the self-importance that a lot of Hollywood actors bring. So I think people see something genuine and genuinely laid back in him that's very appealing, and they've seen that from the beginning, from his earliest films through to his latest films. So one of the most intriguing things I've heard him say about his future is that he'd like to play King Lear. And I'm not sure whether he meant that on stage or on screen, but I think it would be a great part for him. I think he looks like Lear now. John Wick looks like Lear, and I think it would be a great way for him to stretch his wings further as an actor.
For over 30 years, Reeves has really had this incredibly varied career, which is defined by these really intense action roles that he has managed to make his own, and he's really got this kind of bravery, I think, as a performer, where he's been knocked down by life, by bad reviews, by bad box office reception, but he's always kind of got back up. His impact is really reshaping what it means to be a leading man, and also what it means to be a successful actor, and to how you should take bad reviews as an actor. His parlayance of his online persona, or certainly his outside of film persona with on-screen performances, especially in John Wick, has become incredibly unique and something that we're going to see influencing the next generation of action stars.
Well, I don't think he'll be remembered primarily as an actor in the sense that we remember, say, Laurence Olivier or Marlon Brando as an actor. And I don't think he'll be remembered as the kind of star that Tom Cruise is or George Clooney is, someone where we know a lot about their private life and we feel their presence in the film, the presence of their personality in the film. I think he'll be remembered in terms of the screen, in terms of his acting, as someone who really changed the action genre and brought a new kind of figure into it. A more thoughtful, a more emotionally complex, less macho action figure. I think that'll be a key part of his legacy. And the other part will be someone who managed to be a star and a top earning star for decades without taking on any of the trappings of glamour or scandal or self-importance that so many other Hollywood stars have.
Keanu Reeves is far and away one of the more unconventional actors. His ability to have his spirit seep into the roles he undertakes is remarkable. He has experienced so much in his lifetime. Though he deservedly remains a private person, he has shown the world his kindness, his generosity and appreciation for what others might perceive as mundane. There is no doubt that Keanu is a beacon for many people who have experienced similar events in their own life. It is the acceptance of our flaws and the willingness to continue which Keanu has gifted to the people.
What do you think happens when we die, Keanu Reeves?
I know that the ones who love us will miss us.